Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Lynch Paints, where today we'll be painting the magnificent Magna Guard for Star Wars Legion. These are one of my favourite all-time units of the game and also of the setting in general. So let's grab our paints and paintbrushes and let's dive straight into it. But of course, as always, before we get started, we're going to need a selection of paint, and these are the ones I've used in the video today, alongside which we will need a medium-sized brush, a finer detail brush, a little fluffy brush, and a teeny weeny teeny tiny brush for those teeny tiny places. So we're going to start out with a nice white acrylic primer just over the top of the model, and then what we'll do is that we will start out using some black contrast paint, or some black speed paint, or just normal black paint just watered down, and we are going to paint over the robotics of the miniature. The reason why I wanted to start out with a white acrylic primer is because of the robes, and I've sort of figured out that there's a nice easy way to paint the robes using speed paints or contrast paints that will just allow for just an easier time just to get these models painted and onto the tabletop as quickly as we can, which is why I've done it that way around rather than black, because black would have been ideal for the armor bits, because then we can just dry brush over the top with various metallics to create a nice result, but I was more concerned with the robes, so that's why we're doing it this way round. So now that the contrast paint has been allowed to dry, we're going to switch over to the metalwork. So I've got some of this Iron Warriors base silver, or any kind of sort of dark kind of gunmetal silver will do the job. And then using a knackered old tied brush, we are just going to simply do a nice little dry brush just over the top, being careful not to go onto the white cloth as best we can. Now that step has been done, we are going to move over to some more metalwork. So I've got this grey night steel. So it's a nice blue toned, sort of lighter steel colour. You could use chainmail, which is just a lighter silver but doesn't have that blue hue. The reason why I wanted to use this is because it'd be a nice contrast against the Geonosian style base that I'm going to be doing. So I'm just going to pick out some of the armour plates. Not so much the joints, but more the panel work. And with this you can put in as much detail as you like. It is entirely up to you, but I'm just going to keep it simple and then just do the majority of it. So now that the metalwork has been done, we're going to move over onto the cloth. So one of the best ways that I found to do it will be using this Skeleton Horde contrast paint. It's going to give it a little shake, and then we're going to want a nice chunky brush. I'm going to water it down quite a bit because it is quite a nice brown sort of bone colour, but with the cloth it is much more of a cream sort of colour, so if it turns out a little bit too dark, then you can just thin it down with a little water. But again, it entirely depends on your preference. So if you like it that sort of more sort of darker sort of sandy colour, then go ahead, you know, then have to water it down, just slap it on. There's other ways you can do it. You can use sort of like a beigey brown, so regular paint, and then just thin that down with water so it acts like a wash or a glaze, and just kind of put that over the top. It's entirely up to you. So I thought while the robes are drying, we're going to look at the energy sort of like surge around the Electro Staff. So I'm going to start out with this Xeris purple, and then with a medium-sized brush, going to thin it down so it's more like a glaze, and we're going to apply this around the energy kind of coils, and then just kind of overspilling a little bit onto the metalwork, and this will help to create a nice little glow. And then once this is dried, we can then pick out some of the raised areas using a mixture of Xeris purple with a little bit of white. So now we're just adding in some white scar, just to make sure, just to make a nice sort of paler purple. Maybe that's a little bit too pale. Add a little bit more of that in. And then just thin it down with a little bit of water. And then we're just going to pick out the raised areas, like the points on the energy coils, spikes, not too sure which. And then we can just cap it off with just using a little bit of just pure white on the top. Right, we are nearly finished with the Magna Guard, so we're going to look at the eye socket. So, I'm going to want some nice red. Then we're going to use a small detail brush, and then just very carefully just apply the colour just on the inside. Just like that. So, while the paint's still wet, I mean, you can leave it to dry if you'd like, but we're just going to take some of this yellow and then just mix it in to make a nice sort of mid-tone orange, and then just applying a little bit of water. We're just going to just try and aim for the very center as best we can, and just thinning it down with some water will help just to blend it in with the red that we've already got. So it doesn't need to be too much, but just enough to suggest that there is a light source there. So, I mean, that will sort of focus. So that will do, really, for that there. You could, if you want to do, add in a little bit of white just on the inside there, but I think that is just enough. So, now that the eyes are done, we can move over onto the base. With the cloak, now that it's all nice and dried, you could go over the top with a sort of dry brush of white, which, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, I might just do. So we'll go and do that just now. Moving on to the cape, we are going to want our white, and then just a small fluffy brush. I'm just going to wipe up the majority of this, and we're just going to dry brush over the top of the cloth. Now, just for getting around the head gear, I'm going to take a small brush, and then we can always just use it to highlight these little areas. So here we are at the end of the video. So this is how I went about painting the IG-100 Magna Guard for Star Wars Legion. These are one of my favourite units of Star Wars Legion and of Star Wars as a whole. So it's been absolute joy to paint these up. I love how the cloaks turned out, and also like the purple effects. I was a little bit unsure of whether or not to add in some pink to it, because I looked at some reference pictures and some were more purple, some were more pink. But I think that the way that I went about it is as close to my mind that I'm going to get. So if you have any suggestions or other ways you might have done about it, or which parts you really, really love, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you're new, a like and subscribe will go a massive long way as well, and I really do appreciate all the support that you all give me. There'll be stills and reels of this over at my Instagram page at Lynch Paints as well. You want to go over there and check me out also, that would be great. And if you wanted to pick up a box of these for yourselves, then look no further than Wayland Games. They are a UK-based retailer, and they stock loads of amazing miniatures, card games and board games and all kinds of wonderful wargaming and sort of nerdy sort of hobby stuff. And there's an affiliate link down below in the description, so if you order through there, a little bit goes towards supporting me and the channel, and I massively appreciate that as well, so thank you for checking that out as well. And if you want to support me a little bit further, I do have a link for a coffee page down below, so just, yeah, if you really enjoy my stuff, then just chuck me a couple of quid for, or like the equivalent price of a coffee nowadays. Not too sure how much it is, probably like 3-4 quid, but however much you want to donate, then there's a link down there for that as well. So thank you ever so much as always for watching along. Stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you next time.